Like Upstate, no, the Rams. The Rams did everything they could do to get it.
It sure did.
You go play with me?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 p.m., so we'll call the meeting of the Jefferson County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, January 25th. If you would at this time rise for invocation followed by a pledge. And I'll take it tonight. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight and ask for your blessings on this body and this community. And we ask a particular blessing for those that continue to struggle with this pandemic. We've got co-workers, family members, friends, just tons of people that are out there dealing with this even today. And we ask for your blessings on our country as things seem to be even more challenging as we go every day. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Number 2 is on the agenda, so you don't have to. Number 2, Mr. Joe, he's on the agenda.
Okay. All right. Before we get started, if you'd please the board, I'd like to add, we mentioned at the last meeting, and it's my oversight that we didn't get on this agenda, discussion of the Civic Center waiver. If it would please the board, I'd like to add that to the agenda.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. All right. So we'll make that item H and move I down. Okay, just kind of for the record, we have Commissioner Watson joining us from remote as well as Jason. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Next on the agenda, public comments. So as always, if I call your name, if you would, please state your name and your address for the record, and you have 5 minutes. So number 1 on the list, Mr. Self. And if you would, please just come down here.
If you stand at either X.
What?
If you'll stand at either X.
We got a spot for you. So that people can see you and hear you.
See if anything will fall over.
Whatever. Okay. 3 and 4 minutes, 3 after.
We'll keep track of it.
My name is Gary Sabb. I live at 226 Roberts Loop. And I stand here tonight to talk again about the waiver at the Civic Center. I do have a so-called changed waiver that was given to me yesterday at 4 o'clock. I studied this considerably and find that only 3 words has been changed from the original. They took out gross negligence and the word any. So nothing has changed really, because negligence was left in there, so nothing has changed. So I'm here to tell you that I'm still unhappy with this thing, and hopefully with the discussion that y'all are going to have tonight, we can maybe give this thing a home, and y'all then don't have to contend with me. I'll find something else, probably. But I'm really concerned for for all those that's listening to the other thing. I'm concerned about having to give up my rights to this body, all these entities that's in this waiver here. I have to give up my rights to holding them responsible for their negligence. Now, if I'm reading this wrong, and that is my negligence, then it needs to say my negligence, not just negligence and any cause. The any is gone. It's other cause now. It's not any other. So I'm still I don't feel like it's right for a taxpaying citizen to have to say that he gives up his rights to having, holding all these entities responsible for their negligence. Now, that's the problem. If that is taken out, I accept it says at the beginning, I fully understand, and that I am assuming the risk involved in my participation. There's no problem in that. I'd sign that in a minute. But I'm not going to sign it knowing that this thing says that I give up my rights as a taxpaying citizen to holding the Civic Center and all these other entities not responsible for anything that they do. Now, y'all have heard this from me before many times, because actually I started about 9 months ago working on this thing here, trying to get it straightened out. Obviously, hopefully tonight we can come to some kind of conclusion, and maybe then I can understand. Maybe tonight I can hear what negligence really should be, and whose negligence are we talking about in this waiver. I guess I would just might as well hush, because it's not.
You got 2 minutes.
Y'all have heard all this from me before. You know how I feel about it. So let's hope that we can get a discussion amongst y'all to get some kind of some kind of closure to this thing. Maybe Heath can tell me what negligence means and why I have to give up my rights to that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Joe, you signed up, but we already have you on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
So it's okay
Be
to,
quiet.
okay to jump you. All right. Next, Mr. Black.
I didn't know what I was signing when I went up there.
It's an oath of enlistment in the Marine Corps.
If you can't play the game, there's no reason to have it. Does that make any sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we got it. You're keeping people from playing. I'm going back and play some pickleball in just a few minutes. And I think I can still play out there, but you can't play up here. I just don't understand it. So that's it for me.
All right.
If y'all don't want anybody to play up there, you shouldn't not allow them to play up there. And you're doing that. Got it?
Sir, thank you.
And that's all I'm saying.
Sir,
Y'all
thank
have
you.
a nice night. I got a game going.
Thank you.
Y'all
right.
take care. Don't want to miss this pickleball.
Okay. Gentlemen, next on the agenda is the consent agenda. On tonight's consent, we have approval of the January 11th regular meeting minutes, approval of the proclamation that we did honoring Trayvon Walker, approval of the 2022 LMIG projects, and approval of a resolution 04-2022, which is the qualifying fees for this year's coming elections, County Commissioner and Thomas Upson School Board. So is there a motion on the consent?
Call for a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Motion made and seconded to approve the consent. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, new business. Presentation from the Upson Historical Society. I can't believe a year has gone by already. Mr. Joe, it's good to see you. If you would, just please come on up.
Every year, the Upson Historical Society donates $6,000 for the Thomaston Upson Archives. Since 1996, when the archives was created by Upson County, the City of Thomaston, the Thomaston Upson Board of Education, that has served as a community resource of local history. The Upson Historical Society presents programs on many local history subjects and projects. Many visitors to Upson County visit the archives for information. The Society invites anyone with an interest in Upson County to join the Historical Society and participate in our activities. And thank you.
All right, well, guess we need to make it official. Jessica's going to snap a picture. think everybody knows, you know, it is a tremendous resource we have over there. And what was the guy do when he gets a check? Gives it to the lady in charge. Thank y'all. But what a tremendous resource that is. I was just over there recently doing a little research on something myself, and we really look forward to, you know, we got a lot of work to do the next 2 years as we get ready for a couple big birthdays coming up. So, City of Thomaston and Upson County. So, looking forward to something. Yeah. And I think we'll have a candle on the cake by then, meaning the courthouse, right? Mr. English? All right, thank you, Joe.
Yes.
All right, approval of Ipg contract, and with that, I'll let Mr. Tinsley lead discussion on that.
Mr. Chairman, is my audio okay?
A little higher.
I think it's our end.
What about now, Jason?
How about now?
That's perfect.
Okay, great. Mr. Chairman, the contract that's on the agenda for your approval tonight is it's two. So for the first one that you mentioned was IPG. So just a couple of things of note. This contract won't change a whole lot from now until the time we get to what we call our GMP, or guaranteed maximum price. But there's a couple of items worth noting on here that are always of interest to the board when we're asking you to approve contracts. In Section 9, that's the Termination Clause. So the way this is set up currently, this is in Section 9.4, it's 7 days written notice under the current arrangement. So another item of note is Section 11 and 11.1, Part Number 2. That's where you'll find the compensation set at 5.85, which matches what their proposal was for the RFP process of the owner's cost of work as calculated in Section 11.6, and then it goes on in 11.6.1, architect shall be entitled compensation for all services performed whether or not the construction phase commences. So I think the one thing to be clear is that the architects will do work, and we are agreeing that if the construction never takes place, that they will be compensated for it. That's a little bit different than the one work group for Parish a little later.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? So staff recommendation is approval of this contract, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's been reviewed by the county attorney and staff recommendation is approval.
Okay, gentlemen, you have a recommendation from staff for the approval of the contract presented for IPG. Is there a motion on this contract?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Commissioner Watson, we always lean on you when it comes to construction projects like this. You acceptable to you, I assume, since I'm not hearing anything?
Yeah, it's the standard AI contract that I'm used to seeing. I mean, obviously, lean on the legal team to review for the legality purposes, but it's standard, and all, like Jason said, all of the items within the proposal are reflected. So I'm comfortable with what I've read and reviewed.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion made and seconded. There's no more discussion. Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes,
Commissioner Watson?
Yeah.
thank you. And next on the agenda is the approval of the Parish Construction Group contract. Jason?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is one that that obviously will be modified once a substantial amount of the facility is designed and we move into what's called the GMP, or the guaranteed maximum price. But some of the terms that the board will be interested in, similar to the ones in the Ipg contract that I mentioned, the termination section in this one is actually section 13, and then under 13.1.3, it again, it's currently set up so it has 7 days advance notice for either party. So we're still in the early phases of this project, and that's reflected in 13.1.3. So in compensation, you'll see it two parts in section 5. which is pre-construction, which we're agreeing to a cost of $52,000 flat, which matches what they submitted during our RFP process. Section 6 is compensation for a construction phase, and under 6.1.2, that's where you'll see their 2.75% of the GMP. So that GMP has obviously not been established yet. Again, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Watson, but I think that'll be around 80% design. So some months in the future. Staff recommendation is approval, and this one has also been reviewed by the county attorney.
Okay.
And on that, Jason, and Chairman, it is normal practices for us to go into contract and establish the GMP later. I mean, that's standard in this type of CMAR, construction manager at risk type of project. And I've reviewed this as well, and same as before. It's the standard AIA. I feel good with what's in it.
Okay, gentlemen, you have a recommendation from staff for approval of this contract. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, Ms. Jones.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Chairman Allen,
Yes.
Commissioner Watson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Another big hurdle. You came a long way to see us tonight. You'd like to, let's see, you're with, you're not with, sorry, I must have you confused with somebody from Parish, or you're not with Parish?
Me?
Yeah,
No.
I'm sorry.
I'm here with Gary Self and the pickleball people.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You look kind of similar to the guy that was here from Valdosta. You got a twin somewhere, so. So, all right. I didn't want somebody who driven up from Valdosta not to have an opportunity to be recognized. So, my bad. All right. Next on the agenda is the discussion of the Civic Center waiver, and I'll just preface this by saying, so after our last meeting, we kicked the idea around. We had one that I sent over that took the existing one, and I took some phrases out of it and sent it over, and then Mr. English took the one, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but made some modifications to it, and so we got this, and to try to preempt or try to get a gauge on where we were. That's why I got to Mr. Self yesterday, and so that's kind of gotten us back to where we are right now with this. So with that, I'll just open it up for discussion. I mean, I had a conversation with Mr. English today, and my question is, does having a waiver that is signed provide an increased layer of protection for the entities responsible for the activities over there? And we talked about that a little bit, and I'll just hush and let you talk.
Well, Chairman, of course, anytime you have a document signed, it's an additional level of protection. So I appreciate Mr. Self's position on this, and we're duly noted. I don't think it's the board's intention to prevent anybody from playing any sport. So I think one of the things we discussed was some alternatives to a signed waiver, but of course that's up to the board as far as what level of protection you want to put in place. So I don't know if you want to discuss those or not.
Well, yeah, I mean, so I asked, I said, one alternative to this is, put a sign up that, in the Civic Center and on the grounds, that use of this facility, you know, how did I word it earlier today? I was a little more, it was-
Just a basic assumption of the risk notification for any physical activity, you know, so forth and so on. And one of the things we discussed is uniformity throughout the county, you know, if it's whatever activity it might be, have these types of notices up. But again, it's a level of protection question that, you know, ultimately lies with the board.
you know, the example I used talking with Mr. English today was, you know, down at the bluff. You know, I think the sign down at the bluff just says, you know, no lifeguard, swim at your own risk. You know, what if it was just something like that at the Civic Center? Obviously, it would just be like, you know, something, and I'm winging this as, you know, something that say something, participants involved in using this facility understand they're using it at their own risk and their own liability. I mean,
Of course, as we discussed, your level of protection goes down in something like that because, you know, I mean, ultimately, something like that is decided unfortunately, in a courtroom. Whether or not the waiver would hold up or not in court, that's a question for a court and a jury if it went to that. But if you have postings, then, you know, you're decreasing your level of protection as far as liability because you got more defenses to that, or less defenses to it.
I didn't see it. I couldn't
Right.
read it.
Exactly. So when you asked me earlier about, you know, a signed document versus something, you know, a little less intrusive, if you will, you know, you can do it that way, and certainly it's done that way all over the state. But I think one thing we need to note is the waiver that came to us, or the model waiver, I should say, I think that's something that was presented to the Civic Center that's being used kind of throughout the state. So it wasn't like we came up with this specific language to model it towards our Civic Center. It was just kind of a blanket waiver that we tried to amend to
Yeah, it's my understanding, and Jason, you can jump on this too, is that it came from when we went to an automated system, that it was built into the system, that when participants went through that portal to register for events, they had to sign a waiver, and that's where it came from. I don't think anybody bought it in from outside. It was just bought in through the system. Correct, Jason?
Yes, sir, that's mostly correct. It's been revised a few times, obviously, since then. I think it's been revised once or twice since maybe summer last year.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we talk about a lot of things, but it really boils down to this one part of it here. It says for the result of negligence or other cause. Whose negligence? That's a broad, that sweeps everything up into one pile. I mean,
Yeah.
so whose negligence?
Is it customer or is it the county?
Well, it's really meant to cover it's really meant to provide as much protection for the county as possible. And that's why it's written vaguely.
So it's left to the interpretation
Well,
in court of law.
right, I mean, it's gonna be.
So regardless of what we put on this piece of paper, if it goes to that point, that it's gonna be interpreted by the person who's reading it.
Yeah, they could wad it up, maybe the judge could wad it up and throw it in the trash, you know, that's just part of the practice of law, but.
If we removed that section for negligence or other cause, would it be, could you defend that?
Sure. I mean, you still have as long as you're putting them on notice to some degree and they're signing it, that's a greater level of protection and defense versus a posting or something of that nature.
Because also, we're already putting on here, I mean, essentially, if somebody's out there doing any type of activity, or if they're there just for a meeting and using one of the meeting rooms, they would need to sign this form, right?
Right.
And I don't know if that's happening. And I mean, you know, we vote there. It's a polling place. And we got people going in and out of there. So it leaves some, I mean, I understand the citizens' concern about it, that, well, if you do this, you don't have to sign. If you do this, you don't have to sign. We could put something up next time. When we could actually just remove, whether result of negligence or other cause or results of my negligence.
And actually, you could do both. You could put a posting outside, and if it's some type of, you know, obviously some common sense has to come into play here. If it's a physical activity that they're engaging in out there, and when I say physical, sport, then you sign the waiver.
I have a quick comment.
Yes, sir.
What if we say participant negligence? So there's, I mean, it falls. I mean, because if the participant's out there playing and has a known issue or something going on that's unknown to the staff, I mean, it puts, you know, the negligence on whoever's playing the part.
Well, that gets into Commissioner Watson, that gets into exactly why it was kind of left vague, because you can have negligence on either side. You could have negligence on staff. You know, they didn't pick up or clean up a wet spot in the floor that potentially could be deemed negligence, versus somebody out there that's taking away, you know, they're wearing high heel shoes playing basketball or something. You know, again, that's why we kind of left it for interpretation, so you could hopefully, I mean, there's no way you can cover every particular scenario, so you got to leave it vague as much as you can. But again, it just depends on what level of protection you all want in it.
Well, I agree with your original comment, Mr. English. I mean, the purpose of this waiver isn't to prevent anyone from playing any sport. So, I mean, I'm inclined to say let's remove, like Commissioner Ellison said, that those 2 or 3 words, the negligence or other calls, and move on.
But I'd like to go back to the question. I mean, you representing us as a board in Upstate County, I don't want to sit here and tell you, hey, I want to change this, and then when it comes time to represent us on a claim like this, you say, well, you know, I can't do that because we manipulated what I already told you we need to have.
Well, I mean, you're not going to like my answer. Every word you remove from the waiver lowers your threshold of defense. But again, I understand that this was never put into place to prevent anybody from playing any sport out there. I mean, we all probably played sports growing up. I mean, I played football. I know that sounds crazy, but I had to sign waivers all the time. Same thing. I mean, if I didn't sign it, I didn't play.
And one of the other issues created because of this and the way the facilities are used and programs are administered, there's no consistency. You know, so like I said, I use the Bluff as an example. We got people go down there hiking on the trails at the Bluff. They're not signing waivers. People swimming at the river, they're not signing waivers. People going out and playing ball on Kendall Road and playing basketball, they're not signing waivers. So, you know, I just think, you know, for consistency's sake, if you just put some signage out and said, look, use of these facilities is at your own risk. All right, and then if you are in an organized activity where there's some level of, you know, some management, then those people would obviously want them to sign waivers, especially youth sports. Hopefully one day we get in some adult athletic events over there where it's organized. To participate in an organized one, it would be more easily managed if they signed a waiver. Then we get back to square one, you know, what's the verbiage in that waiver going to look like? So I've always said that I want them wearing the grass off the fields and the paint off the court. And right now, you know, we're not doing that consistently. So, that's just my 2 cents. Put a sign up everywhere. If it's not an organized activity, and I guess, to carry it even further, you know, we do charge entry fees at the Civic Center. If there's a fee collected, you know, I think they sign in and sign out. Is that correct? Do people sign in and sign out when they show up at the Civic Center?
Yes.
You know, so when I sign in,
Depending
you
on
know,
where
could
they
there be a sign-up sheet that says at the top, you know, we got the sign up, but it says also here, I acknowledge that the use of this facility is at my own risk. Then they signed it. Wouldn't that be you know, you signed this document. Now, I mean, a child or someone under legal age, you know, obviously that's not going to hold any weight, I wouldn't think, but I just think there's other ways that we can accomplish the same things. Yeah, we're gonna minimize it, but I mean, I hate to put it in simplistic terms, but I know times have changed. You know, we haven't had an issue there since the 70s. That I mean, has anybody ever sued us?
Not that I'm aware of.
I mean, yeah, but things change every day.
Were the result of my negligence, period.
So how do you
And
want?
we still got the form, it's still signed, it's on file, we got it for every individual person, whether it be organized or just recreational. It's still done, because if you do it that way and then people go in to register on our website for a sport, then somehow the system's gonna have to be able to pick up, is this an organized sport or is this just you coming in to play basketball? If you just, if you take out, put in my negligence, period.
Okay, so that whole, I ain't gonna read the whole sentence.
Or the result of
For
my.
any injury that I may suffer in the normal course of participation in any activity, program, class, or sport, and the activities incidental thereto, whether the result, what do you say? I'm trying to get the wording just right. It wouldn't be whether the result of negligence or other cause. It would just say.
Well, the result of my negligence, period. My signature indicates an understanding and a knowledge.
Whether the result of my negligence.
So basically,
I'm good with that.
what it's saying is if I'm negligent, if I wear high heels to play basketball and break my ankle, that's my fault.
I have a question. Is this going to be required for every place that we have sport activity going on? It's just going to be unique to the Civic Center?
To the citizens.
So what if we go out to Salem or Log Town and play basketball?
We should have something posted. a
We
sign posted on there.
gotta have, we need to have some uniformity as to what we require for everybody that participates in sport if it's on our facility. Whether it's at the Civic Center or the other ballpark.
So I would say then, so you would use this if it was an organized event, right? Somebody's got to sign this waiver. If it's a pickup basketball game at Kendall Road or a softball game at Thurston, there's nobody out there signing waivers. This would be something that I guess we could have in our system. This would replace the one in our system, and they would have it at Civic Center for organized activities. But if it's not an organized activity, you're just going over there to say,
I think in that event, you really need some kind of posting because you can't enforce a signed waiver in those situations. I mean, it'd be impossible.
Each
That's what I'm
location
saying.
needs to
A
have
posting?
signage basically stating
So
each county park.
postings at the parks, posting at the entrance over there, something on a sign-in sheet when you come into the Civic Center. If you haven't registered for an event through the portal, you sign in, says, I understand I'm responsible for, me here now playing pickleball or racquetball or whatever.
Yeah, I think if we go that route, then we could leave the waiver as is, if it's just strictly for organized play, and then posting everywhere else. Two options there, so leave the waiver as is, organized play or with postings, or adjust the waiver like Commissioner Ellington says.
So pickleball wouldn't be an organized event anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Now, if they started a tournament, you know, then I guess you would say maybe. And Jason, I mean, I'd like to hear your input on this, because I mean, what we do, you gotta implement. So
Can I just
Yeah.
say one thing?
hold on, Jason. Yeah.
That, you know, where we're gonna run into an issue there is when we have travel ball teams who wanna come out and use the fields. You know, like I said, I think the waiver's fine. We put some posting at the parks. That's totally separate. We put posting at all the county parks, including the Bluff
How about the pool?
and the pool. And then we have this for Civic Center in the grounds of the Civic Center. And we just take out the verbiage that I asked to be taken out, and I think it clears everything up. And then when we change that, then when you go onto the portal, you know, you can fill out your stuff on there, and everything's good to go. We don't have to get IT involved and try to do a whole bunch of other things. But I like to hear what Jason's got to say.
To the man, everything I've always learned, everything's easy except for the man that's got to do it, or the lady that's got to do it. So, Jason.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't hear any issues as far as deployment of the changes that Commissioner Ellington just made. And I think just getting back to the root of everything, it's just important to remember that if you're coming into contact with an organized activity at the Civic Center, I mean, 99% of it is with a volunteer, and I think that's kind of where legal was going, is, you know, most of the time you're in contact with a volunteer coach or a volunteer assistant coach or a team mom, and not necessarily even under the direct guidance of an employee of the county. So I think that broad language was going to protect all of our volunteer coaches, all of our referees, you know, all of the folks that are involved. Because, you know, 90+% of everything we do in that building is organized, and it's youth related. So we have a lot of kids under the guidance of camp counselors, coaches, and everything else. So if the board just wanted to go to keep it for the registration for the activities, I don't think that would be a problem at all. Maybe just if it's a county sanctioned event, then it would be required, and if it's just free play, then it wouldn't be required. As far as implementation goes, I think we could manage that quite easily.
So, would that change to that?
Let's understand the change. What I'm hearing Jason to say is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, is that we only require the waiver for organized activities at the Civic Center. Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, I think if that's the way the board wanted to go, as far as implementation, I don't think that would be any issue at all.
And leave the language as is?
Do you want to, with the modified language, or leaving the language as is?
Well, you know, we've heard what he says.
Well, there's another piece to this too that we, you know, and you know, yeah, Commissioner, I mean, Councilmember Head here, Mayor Pro Tem Head here, because of, you know, the city has a stake in this discussion as well, because, you know, they help fund the activities at Civic Center, but, you know, they don't have waivers for people to sign, you know, show up at the tennis courts or play pickleball or to participate in anything down at Weaver Park. So just trying to get consistency throughout the community the best we can. anyway, so that's another issue, I guess, but, so, I know we're not in the business doing business this way, and I'm not gonna do business this way, so, as far as saying, hey, are y'all okay with this? But, I mean,
So for organized sports, and Jason brought up something that kind of hit home with me, and I've done it myself personally for many years, and my wife done it for twice as many as I did. It was volunteer coach regularly, and maybe we were fortunate. Maybe we were just passionate about what we were doing, and we didn't worry about this. But I don't ever remember signing anything out of the 10 years that I volunteered, and my wife did it for about 15 years, and I don't ever recall, other than taking some classes and having a background check, ever signing anything saying that I was going to be liable or but I know that is a concern, for some folks, and I hope that wouldn't deter them. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, I still kind of go back to just being consistent. I think we keep this. My recommendation is, and I can be swayed, but if somebody here's got something else they want to say, but if we'll take out that what we discussed, so and we still require it for the civic center, and then we post something at the parks, and we move forward.
So you want to take that out, or you want to put your "my" in there?
Yeah, I want to put just as Chairman's got it stated here.
Well, it needs to. I'll tell you what it needs to say. Instead of saying whether the result of negligence, should say as the result of my negligence. Get rid of whether and change it to as, and that it, because you can't use whether in that case. You have
that's why I'm struggling on this.
Yeah, you have to use as a result of my negligence.
For any injury that I may suffer in the normal course of participation in any activity, program, class, or sport, and the activities incidental thereto, as the result of my negligence, period.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Jason, do the volunteer coaches, are we thinking this waiver would be signed by them as well, or just participants?
I'll ask Jason.
We don't require the volunteer coaches to sign waivers. It's really, the waivers are to protect them, because it's hard to find volunteer coaches these days. So, yeah, we don't require them to sign, and we obviously do background checks and everything we can to make sure that we've got the highest quality volunteers, but that they are becoming a little harder to find lately. So no, they if they sign the waiver for their child when their child plays in the league, just like everybody else does, but that's the extent of it.
All right, we've beaten us pretty good. So is there, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to present it as Mr. Ellington has prescribed.
The modification to
Yes.
the waiver,
Yes.
as we talked about, with that minor change, and that this waiver will be only used for folks who are participating in organized activities, and we will get some signage up. Is that your desire?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. You can't second it? Who made it?
He made the motion.
Oh, you made the second. I'm sorry.
It don't matter.
It's been a long day. All right, so I have a motion from Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Ellington, to make the amendments to the modifications to this waiver, and to apply this to the organized programming at the Civic Center, and then to have staff place some signage consistently throughout the county rec areas regarding liability. Is that a good way, Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Wilder,
She wants to, I was gonna say, did you get all that? But you evidently did, call for the vote.
I have it.
All right,
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
yes,
Commissioner Watson?
Yeah.
okay. All right,
So we put this item to sleep.
well, I guess we'll find out if there's people at the pickleball court tomorrow.
Before we move on,
I was asked if we put this item to rest, and I said, I guess we'll find out if there's someone playing pickleball tomorrow.
We'll be there.
You got a guy on the back row that's looking for some competition. Okay, all right.
let me
Yes,
ask you, all right, while we're talking, what do we do at the pool? Anything
What do we do, what?
at the pool?
There's some signage out there on the.
Is it?
Travis Jones.
I was just wondering, I've never been in the pool, so.
Looking for lifeguards.
No.
So they're still looking at it.
Okay, next on the agenda. Jason, County Manager.
Mr. Chairman, is this comments?
Yes, sir.
Comment section?
Yes.
Okay, great. Really just one update tonight, but it's an important one, and I copied the board earlier today on an email that went out to all of the different components of that make up our judicial system. So we officially kicked off our design process this week. Members of Ipg will actually be in Upstate County later on this week for a couple days, and they'll begin to start meeting with some of the constitutional offices, judges, and other offices that make up our circuit. So the goal is that so they'll have some amount of feedback that they can provide to you at your retreat that's coming soon. But they won't have it all done by then, but what we should be able to have a pretty comprehensive, strategy moving forward with Parish and Ipg. So just to let commissioners know, they will see members of the design team on and off right for the next few weeks, probably on a weekly basis, engaging staff and elected officials and judges at different levels. So we're really excited to announce that, really excited to get moving. And then while we're on the subject of the Judicial Center construction, the chairman and I and our CFO will be participating on our, our second Moody's rating call tomorrow morning at 10. So this is the call that will be to get our underlying rating when we take the bonds that we're going to utilize to construct the facility to market. So we think we can make a great case for a ratings upgrade. Obviously our finances are in tip-top shape, even better than they were last year, so we can certainly make a compelling case for a ratings upgrade, and we'll be trying to do that on behalf of the county tomorrow at 10. Those are the only two major items I have, Mr. Chairman. It's, as you know, Mr. Chairman, this is pretty awkward for me to try to to remote into our meetings. Admittedly, I don't know how people can work from home. I can tell you it's wildly difficult for me, so I'll keep my comments short tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. English, anything?
I don't have anything, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Watson.
Yeah, two items real quick. First, I'd like to encourage everybody to join or follow our Facebook page. Jessica, you're doing a great job getting our message out, and I think it's a great avenue for people to get all the news, probably the quickest out of any of the avenues. So I encourage everybody to join that. And then second, I'm hopeful that we'll receive word from our ARPA grant on broadband this week. I believe, Jason, isn't that supposed to be coming in by the end of the week or early next week?
Yeah, the guidance, Commissioner Watson, the guidance from the staff at the state level was the end of January, so we're expecting it any day now. Obviously, the earlier deadline came and went,
Yeah.
so hopefully it won't be extended again.
Yeah, and that ARPA grant was for the broadband. I know that one's coming in sooner than the others, so I'm hopeful we'll receive a positive word on that here shortly. But that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Ellington,
I have no comments on this, Chairman.
Mr. Jones.
Just want to appreciate everybody that came. I'd love to see more people in the county participate in what goes on down here, and try to keep up with the times we got going. And that's it.
Mr. Wiley.
I don't have any comments, sir.
Oh, wow, okay. Well, couple of notes for me. I want to echo what Commissioner Watson said. You know, we are working really hard to get the word out about what's going on in our community through our press releases and through social media. I mean, our press releases are intended to get the news, the facts to our local media. What they do with it, obviously, is up to you. We put it on social media, so you know it's there. It's the unmitigated, unbiased facts of what's going on. So please, if you're watching or if you're here or as you talk to people, tell them to go to whatever. It's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, right?
LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, yes.
LinkedIn, Twitter.
Not Twitter.
I keep going to say Twitter. I need to get Twitter. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And we just had a survey, and I'm sure we'll talk about that down the road here very soon about, you know, we asked through those media, we said, how do you want to get your news from the county? How do you want to hear? You know, so I can't wait to hear what the results of that survey is. But please, you know, if you're using that social media, like it, share it, follow it, do whatever you got to do, but get it out there. And then if you have questions about anything you see on that, or anywhere for that matter, call us. I mean, our stuff is on our Facebook page. It's got our personal, our email addresses, our phone number. If you call 647-7012, the ladies will find us. You will get a call back. You may not get it that day, but you will get a call back. And if you don't, call us again. Be persistent. But we do our very best to get the word out on what's going on. So if you want to know what's going on, ask the source, is what my recommendation would be. Or you can choose to get your news or whatever that may be from somewhere else. And I'll shut up before I get in trouble. Hey, it was a great event with Trayvon Walker. I mean, I know we saw some of y'all there, and I said it at the thing. I said, you know, 5 years doing this job, I've been on the White House lawn, I've been in the governor's office, but I had goosebumps the other night with Trayvon. I mean, you know, standing on stage with a first-round draft pick, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And a national champion, so that was a big deal, and really appreciate the community and that family for what they have done for this community. Sad news this week. I mean, we can't have a meeting and not mention the fact that Turkey Creek, a brand that's kind of been associated with our community for a long time. You know, I don't know about y'all. I go buy pork rinds. I mean, I look for Turkey Creek. I don't want one of those other ones. And now that, you know, I don't know if that product's going to be removed, but the closing that facility here, that's a huge deal, especially the 44 people here. And our thoughts and prayers are in with those families that are affected by that. But, you know, I certainly hope that, you know, that we can help those families find gainful employment and careers elsewhere. We're doing everything we can to recruit industry and businesses here. So our best wishes with them. And then lastly, I'll make note. I mean, I think everybody heard it was the IDA meeting yesterday. You know, strike three on the Martha Mill site. You know, the city tried diligently to acquire their property. We tried diligently and in good faith, just like the city, to acquire that property because we know that it needs to be done for the betterment of the community. The IDA picked it up where, you know, we all left it off. And, you know, once again, it was more of the same. Rush, got to do it by this date. Oh, I need an extra month. And then, no, forget it. Okay, so hopefully, there's other ways to attack that issue, and we stand by to support whatever entity chooses to work on getting that blight cleaned up in our community. And with that, that's really all I have. It's
Anybody wants to go in the foreskin business, now's the time.
can't be Turkey Creek though, I guess, you know.
We change it to something else, Chicken Creek or something.
Yeah, Jones,
Yeah,
pork rinds. Yeah, appreciate everybody coming out, and if there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all. We're still live. Go away here.
Don't go.
I'm just kidding. We're still live.
Any of y'all would like to